All right, and here we are live back once again. So we keep on going on the 6-2 profile on the left angle cross of the masks. The 6-2, it's always so interesting to me that six line can always be so beautiful. When you read six line, you see that there are these like the Bodhisattva and like Buddhahood, these incredible names that are associated with six line themes. This is the role of the administrator. Now remember, don't forget in the background beyond the seventh gate, think about the way in which all crosses operate. That you're looking at the three arms of this cross, all being focused through that seventh gate. But still, they're carrying their power in that. The thing to remember about the fives and the six on the left angle cross is that much of their approach is intellectual. The only way we can get out of the physical dilemma of the relationship is through the mental bullshit that we can live out. We have all these mental things that we can play out. The 4323 is really good at that. It's deaf to its problems. It only talks about what they have as an I know. The six has to go through its processes. It has to go through its phases. This tripartite life process. And we know what it means to be caught up in the third line process in the beginning. But this is the administrator. It's the ability to share and justly apportion power. Now again, as we talked about it when we talk about the teaching of line analysis, this is a line that has an introduction that is, it has the blue highlight. And that we know that you have a line this way, you can see that very single line of the gate is the developmental process in life. In other words, if you the seventh gate has a heading. Remember, if the line doesn't have a heading, it means it's natural from birth. It's there. If a line has a blue heading, it means it's a developmental process. So you can see that this ability to share and just the apportion power is not something you're born with. It's something that you can mature into. Now the six is always looking for the deal, and it's always looking for something that it can trust. And more than that, if it doesn't indulge in its basic hypocrisy, it's really looking for not only what it can trust, but it can truly trust the other, and it can trust the other with intrinsic responsibilities. One of the things about parenthood is that parenthood creates recognitions of trust or not that can solidify the relationships. The way in which each parent views the way the other raises the child, their relationships to the child, the way in which that is assessed. So many people that I know who are in a relationship will say that they're having a hard time with their partner, but their partner is a good parent. And you can tell right away that good parent part is a very deep, it's the part that has nothing to do with these difficulties of the illusions and the deals of love, but have to do with the general respect for and recognition that they're capable of looking after your child that carries your genetic material into the future. Appointing power is the only way in the end that one can imagine that duality could work. In other words, this is the example. And the example basically is saying that if we get it to a point of objectivity, we will realize in a relationship that one partner has powers here and the other partner has powers there. And as long as their own powers are in different areas, there's no point in them having conflict. Let them see each have their power. This was one of the ways in which my parents' generation tried to establish that kind of a law. What I described as my father walking into my mother's house, my mother was in charge of her world and my father didn't interfere. He didn't tell her what to do or what to buy, or didn't tell her how to feed the children, don't tell her how to clothe them, look after them house, didn't tell her what house to live in. She would decide where they would live. What house would they buy? With my father on the outside world, my mother had absolutely no input whatsoever, none. It was not her world, it was his world. And in that way, they each had power. My mother's generation was a generation where a woman was deeply dependent financially on males. So my mother had a bargain. I had my world, I have my power, and here's my power. I recognize your power, you go out there and you do that with we had this archetype that has been created by the not self civilization. The whole theme of administration is to get to the point where partners are examples and are partners that can share power. This is the seventh gate after all. This is collective. Ultimately, it's not about sharing a direction, it's about sharing power. And as we well-known politicians share directions, not power, this is the way the seventh gate lives right now. And for us, there's a deep need for transformation in that. In other words, the goal, if you will, the ideal, remember that's what the six always represents, is a potential example. It can be the direct result of the whole process and the transition to the next gate, which is the answer. It's so funny to think that in all formulas are in fact trying to figure out logically how to make bonds, which in fact is the fourth gate has led to every science known to man. Every philosophy, every pseudoscience, every esoteric science, every dream, it's all based on the same thing. You see this incredible relationship between the seven and the four, and this transition in the six, the transmission to, okay, let's turn the partnership into something that's administered. You see the seeds that in the way in which the communism evolved in the mid 20th century, in which there were very deep experiments in trying to administer relationships, in trying to administer the raising of children, and trying to work out areas of power. It was a favorite joke in the Soviet area. A Western female reporter interviews a Russian female, and she said to her, "Aren't you lucky? You can go out and you can work and you can earn exactly what all the men are doing, and there are no restrictions. And there you are, out there doing that." And the Russian woman replies, "And then I go home and I cook and I clean and I wash and I iron and on and on and on and on. I do all that." One of the things that we have to see is that our goal, if there is a goal, that anything that the seven points us to, and remember this is the direction of the quarter, everything else follows the lead of the seven until they get to the 44 at the end. And so ultimately, what the seven gate is giving us is that it's giving us a promise that at some point we can find a way to administer power. Yes, what I can say is good luck, because I can understand that this is possible the moment that you really have awareness, awakeness. It's so clear to me that in a world where you could have a community of, let's say, need a minimum of maybe 50 to 200,000 people, and in that entire community, everybody was living their design. And what you would see in living their design beyond 7 years is that natural bonds would form between likes, not between differences. In other words, egos would bond with egos, and G centers with G centers, and spleens with spleens, and solar plexus with solar plexus, and profiles with profiles, and energy types with energy types, and angles with angles. And then you would see that there is no need to apportion power. And the whole myth of duality would disappear, because if we ever all have its one thing, we have uniqueness. We are each here to be unique. We are not here to be bonded. That's just the mechanics of the program. We are here to meet many things along the way, but we are here to meet it alone. There's no other way. We're here to meet it through their own authority. Nobody is my authority. No partner, no God, no thing, no alien, no entity, nothing. There's only one authority. It's my authority. There's only one God. It's me. There's no judgment. There's no comparison. There's nothing. And only when you stand in that place, you can stand having someone beside you, because they're in their place, and there's no question of authority, and there's no question of competition, and there's no question of anything. They're just there. We're flying along. Hi, nice to see you. That you're flying with me. Aren't we lucky? We get to see each other for a while good. This isn't anything else. And at the moment you get to the place, it doesn't matter what kind of plumbing you have. It doesn't matter what the traditional roles are on the basque. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's just movement in space. It's just geometries. The passenger has said no sex. There's no such thing. The passenger has no body. Just the illusion that it gets from connecting to this whole vehicle. The passenger has no relationship with anything. It is why always is so fucked up. It doesn't understand what's going on. Why am I being pulled this way and that way? And the machine has funny hormones and all that stuff. No, where we go is that we're going towards some cosmic fusion. You're going to die in your own grave. Unless you come from Srebrenica, you're going to go alone. Your crystal isn't going to go be holding anybody's hand when it's get picked up by the bundle. You're on your own. You're always on your own. And there's no need for any mask or role. The mask and the role is just the vehicle's game. There is no need to judge. I see all the games. I thank you very lucky star every day that's giving me the role. I have. I was not also blessed with the 1858. It would drive me crazy. It's not about becoming one. We already won. That's been always there. The problem is that we become differentiated. And the thing that we have to recognize is that when we differentiate, it's not like we're going to be without company. There are all these things flying around. Some of them are on your fractal. You can get rid of them. You shake in them and they don't move. My lifelong deep philosophy: when you wake up and you see the same face, this must be love. When you wake up and you open the door and you see the same face, that must be friendship. When you go to work and you see the same face, that must be a colleague. After all, the passenger is just being yanked around through all of that. And then you have the passenger worried about relationships. If it weren't so madly absurd, it's so absurd. So when you enter into duality, you're not entering into a quarter that's called duality become one. You go in dual, you go out dual. But while you're running along that track, you're making something else. And that something else will eventually run around the wheel and end up in the same city story. It's so much fun to be human, isn't it? Isn't it a joy to be giving such a movie? Understand something very profound, for me, very profound. I went through many, many relationships in my life. I've had many relationships. I was incapable of maintaining relationships. Not only was I incapable of maintaining relationships, but it must have been an enormous pain for anybody trying to have one with me. And I've talked so often about you do not change in waking up. You see differently. I've been with the same person for 21 years. It's a very long time. It's almost forever in the way my consciousness works. And I go to all these places inside of me that have rejected every other relationships as a long-term relationships. Everyone. I go to the place right now. I can dig out all these places. And it's so obvious because I am me. And when you run down a track with somebody you're not allowed to be just you, it sets the stage for making more. And yet I notice something. When you're a passenger and you honestly don't care, because I honestly don't care, what can my passenger possibly care about? It's not responsible. It's not in charge. I can't change anything. I can't do anything. It can only witness. It can only watch this life instead of being hooked on it, turned by it. I told you the story. Imagine what it's like. I'm a 62 gate. And literally, without that sounding my huge ego blurbing, there was never been a 62 like me. There has never been detail like that. But I've lived for 21 years with a 1762 who most of the time assumes I'm an idiot. My facts don't count. Compromise and what compromise does. Now, I really enjoy that. I would have killed myself in the past. She would say to me, "You're an idiot." And I'd say, "I'm a world teacher." Do you think that would do any good? All of what come out of that is, yeah, they're idiots. Don't say anything. Don't muddy the waters. Recognize what no choice really means. Because I understand something. I'm waking up every day and I'm seeing that person. Because I have no choice. It's not up to me that I started it. It's not up to me the way it goes. It's not up to me the way it ends. It's not up to me how it feels along the way. Whatever the feelings are, whatever the good or the bad is, the blah 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 blah, and on and on. It's a real movie. Now this is it. It was my first deep mantra. It was the first thing that really came out of me. This is it. This is all there is. No change. Straight line, straight line, straight line. No choice. I don't resist. I trust in the geometry deep, deep, deep down inside because I recognize that every force that I meet, all I have to do is see them and then I will see why they were there. I will see what it's all about. I will find a deeper love that has nothing to do with the person, that has nothing to do with the personal. It doesn't matter who you meet. The moment you see it when in the context of helpless, choiceless geometry, you better respect who's in your face. Just let it be. Be you and see what happens. See if the geometry holds. See where it takes you. And the whole thing about duality is that understand what I tried to explain to you the other day is that the program, that the wheel is so primitive. We're coming to the end of 19,000 years round in the program. It's a primitive program. They're primitive vehicles that our consciousness is training against it. This is the old line of duality. It's an old line of duality programming primitive humanity into this reproductive program. But that's coming to an end. That's in the beginning. It seemed like the tracks were going to merge, but they don't. It's the illusion that you have to that space, but you never get to travel that far. It's short, it's quick. That's why correctness is everything in life, because only when you're correct does your magnetic monopole allow you to the correct perspective on your geometry. Think about that. Think about what it's like to be the not self. Imagine that you're the not self and you're lucky. That is that you're lucky in the environment you get. You're lucky in your conditioning. You're driving in a limousine in which there happens to be only one aspect of one of the windows that's clean. That's what you're seeing. Now you're going in the same direction. It's not like your life is going to change, but you see your life through this little window. And then you wake up and all the windows are clean. Wow, I didn't see that. I didn't see this. I was looking over here. Yeah, this is what is seeing is all about. And you cannot see this way if you're connected to your life. You can only see this way when you're watching your life. And it doesn't mean that you deaden things. People have funny ways of how they think that this means watching your life. It doesn't mean that if you're emotional, you're not going to be emotional because you're disconnected. People think that this means that you're pulling out of being human. You're not. You're disconnecting from what it is to be a vehicle's function. The vehicle has the life. The body is the life. The body is not yours. It's old stuff. Let the body live its life. Watch its life. It's not yours. That's the whole point. For all the people who claim they're spiritual and mystical, they don't trust in the gods. Say your prayer, but please pass on the ammunition. No trust. I'm in the hands of God. Everything I say, everything I do, everywhere I go, everyone I meet, everyone I touch has nothing to do with me. Has never had anything to do with me. Nothing, nothing, nothing. I'm just a filter. This is just a filter. I watch the filter. I dramatize it as a movie so that it can be entertaining. And I can see the beauty of the parts and the roles and the furniture and the this and the that and the complexity of it all. And I watch it. But I am somebody who's truly spiritual, as black as I am, because I'm a surrendered being. I know I'm helpless. So relationship is not a challenge to me anymore. Love is not an elusive for me anymore. My vehicle knows how to love. At least it seems as far as my vehicle is concerned. That's what it is. That's interesting. And the vehicle feels good and that's nice. The vehicle gets hurt. Well, that's okay. It's what happens when the vehicle gets hurt. I know that movie, but it's not me. It's not what I'm about. I'm a passenger here. It's like what happens to me in these classrooms. I'm here listening to me. I have an unconscious mind. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do or say. And my passenger sits in here and says a good flow today, not bad. Every once in a while it says good stuff or you're being funny today. I have no sense of that being me. It's what experienced as my life. I love life simply to be there. So you have to understand something about the trap of duality. If you're identified with this process, you will be unhappy with the other of all of your life, regardless of whatever mask you wear. And at the moment you release yourself from the mental control of your life, the moment you open yourself up to following what is truly your authority, you begin to understand something very funny. You don't care. I used to get concerned when they would get mad at me. I don't care anymore. I don't. It's so funny. It's like, this happens and that happens. It's the way it is. I'm not going to change this. I can't. I can't change my partner. That's called formula that's structured here is a very primitive formula that makes it so difficult. And it's deeply rooted in leading and following, trying to find a way to pretend that it works. And the only healing that we can bring is the healing that returns someone to their authority. Love can never be your authority. Oh, I make all these people, fuzzy people, upset now. Love can never be your authority. You have to be your authority, no one else. Now, let's pause this for a minute. The sixth tree. Remember that the sixth tree is never really concerned about where it comes from. It's concerned about where it's going. The sixth tree is always looking to the next cross. It's always looking to the next hexagram. And the hexagram that follows the seven is the four. Now we stay in logic, we stay in collective, and we go to the mind. So it's something to keep in mind that when you're dealing with this whole recognition of what duality leads to, is what we know that duality is in fact leads to trying to come up with a formula. It's in fact duality is something that is truly unable to survive it through math, through administration, through all these games. That ultimately there must be a formula for duality, a mystery that we can be solved because there's a doubt endangered, and the doubt endangered is why are we this and that. If we are not meant to be something else, what's the point? You're attracted to something, and at the same time, you can never fully be one with the other. You can't, though. And because of that, is the beginning of direction through duality. That the first thing that comes with this recognition is that the sixth tree is there must be another way. There must be a way in the future. There must be a logical way in which we can make partnership work. What we can see from the sixth tree is that the sixth tree is always looking at how other people work as partners. Always. They're the kind of children in the 3-3 phase where they see their partners as always fighting. They don't want to hear have a relationship because it's just about fighting. That's the worst can be expected from any bond. And yet opportunity for an objective view of the process. They will recognize that it's a trust in the end. That's what it's all about, and what and that how we can develop this trust, and we're allowed to move along the same track with another without even possible the one. And this is the greatest doubt of it all. Okay, got a doubt. Yeah, got a doubt too. Okay, let's start doubting. Let's go to the logical doubt story, guys. Let's doubt. That was a long one. Wow, 20 minutes.